Hello and welcome to this video. My name's Beckham. What we're going to do here is look at just one aspect of layer blending. There are many of them and we couldn't possibly do a demonstration on each one, although I think we're going to be touching on one or two in the subject of montage. But here we're just going to look at one for creative purposes, although it has practical uses too. What I'd like to do here is to use one of the blend modes to add creative colour to the white sails in these boats. But the technique is also the same one we may use to repair old faded colour photos. Now here is a pretty typical colour image that's very badly faded. I did need to liaise with the owner of the photograph to try to get a good idea of what the colours were, because if you look at the lady's coat she's wearing, is the original colour more this colour or more this colour? But of course, once I've got a good idea, I can use the techniques we're going to use in this video and we can improve matters quite considerably. Here we have another image which is obviously very badly faded, and using again the same techniques we can put back quite a degree of colour and certainly make an improvement in the image. The technique I'm going to use to colour in these sails uses a soft edge brush, and it uses a shift click technique which I'll demonstrate in a moment. Now this is a very useful technique when you want to make complex but manual cutouts of objects in your images, and I hope to demonstrate that a little bit later on through these videos. Let me make a start with this image by first selecting a colour. I'm going to go to my colour picker down here. I'm going to go down to the greens. I think I'm going to pick up a green. I don't want it to be too solid, and we can always change this, so what I'm about to do here isn't cast in stone. And I'm going to click OK to that. I'm also going to create a new blank layer over the top of my sailboats. Then I need to paint on that new blank layer, but of course within the shape of the sail. Now there's no risk here. If we went over the edge of the sails, we could always mask it back with the layer mask, or we could erase it with the eraser tool. But if we're doing this work and we can get it right first time, then obviously that's the best way to go. So with my colour selected, which I may want to change, I need a standard soft edge brush. I'm going to be using my flow and opacity at 100%, and I need the image quite large, so I'll click and drag over the top of the sail and get it to a size where I think I'm ready to work. I can adjust the size of the brush using those square bracket keys, and I'll demonstrate the technique, and this is a good one for that because we've got lots of straight edges. But just because I'm using this method on straight edges doesn't mean that it doesn't work equally well on curves. So let me just do that top part. We just make the brush a bit smaller. I just want to go in there, and if I just click and hold my shift key and click further down here, I think I need a slightly bigger brush. So I'll start right there, click, hold the shift key, click, click. Now when I run out of space on the screen, if I just rest my thumb on the space bar, the hand tool appears. I can click and drag, and as you can see, as I release it, I'm straight the way down, so it's quite a quick process to do as well. Now I'll demonstrate this quickly by going across here and back up the other side, because I want to show something on the toolbar which may help you. Sometimes when we're doing this work, the picture can be at the wrong angle. If you can imagine drawing something on the bench in front of you, sometimes we orientate the paper or whatever we're drawing on at a slight angle to be more comfortable doing whatever it is we're doing. Well, we can do that with Photoshop. There's a tool that I don't think gets used all that often, but I'll demonstrate it here because it may have some relevance. If we go to the hand tool and click and hold, we do have one that says Rotate View Tool, and when I select it, you can see exactly what I can do. I can go back to my brush, I can click on the edge, I can hold my shift key, and I can do my masking or my painting in this case. Generally I use this technique for masking, so forgive me if I use the word masking when I really mean just painting onto a new blank layer. But there you can see, by just orientating that sail in a different way, it just seems to make it a little bit easier. And to get back, just double click and Control 0, and you can see the little bit I've done up at the top. So let's have a look at flooding all the center in and doing that a little bit quicker than having to do that manually. If for a moment we come back over to the layers, I'll just turn the bottom layer off. It's not essential I do that, but it just allows you to see a little more clearly. The one thing I need to make sure is I do have this area here joined up, so just for a moment I do need to make sure I don't leave any gaps here. So I'm just going to go around that edge there, because what I'm going to do is select inside this coloured line with my magic wand tool. Now I'll select it and click inside. I can't just flood that with colour, because if you look carefully, the selection is being affected by the softness of the brush I used. I'm going to have to move this line probably 4 or 5 pixels this way. I'm not sure how many pixels, but I can soon see by going to Select, Modify, Expand. Let's choose 4 pixels to start. That's not bad, but I probably could go in a bit further. So if I go back, I can select, modify, expand. I'll add 2 more to that, so I think 6 was probably closer. Now with the green selected here, I'll hit Control 0 first. Now I can use Alt Backspace and I can flood the whole area in. But of course we would have waited until we got the entire sail done. But of course what we're seeing there is not that attractive. Now I've deliberately left this last stage to last, because if we blend this layer with the one beneath, we can choose perhaps multiply. Then you'll notice that it reveals all of the creases and folds in the sail, and it looks completely normal. I'm going to spend just a couple of more minutes to just go around the outer edge of the lower part of that first sail, because the technique I've described is all we really need. It's the same technique for any of the sails and any colours. But if I get one sail done, we can have a look at changing colour. Now as you can see by the green edge right the way down the bottom, along and back, it has only taken me 2 or 3 minutes to do that. It really is a quick process with that shift click, and of course the more you use the technique, the faster you get at it. And of course now we know exactly how much to expand our selections, so it should be even quicker now to just pick up the magic wand tool, to select the layer, click into it, go to Select, Modify, Expand. I'll go straight to 6 pixels this time, Control Backspace to flood with colour, Control D to remove my selection, and there we have our coloured sail. If we just pause at this point and think about the technique for the moment, although I'm using it here with an image in a creative way, we can use this technique to fix small areas of our image, and sometimes slightly bigger ones too. Imagine when you're in a forest situation, and sometimes even when the lighting is in your favour, some of the leaves may be wet or damp and may be facing in your direction, and they reflect the light towards you and therefore lose all colour, and they can be very distracting. Now there's a number of ways we can deal with these, and this is one of them. Now we can adjust the colour of the sails. We could bring up our hue and saturation. Now we'll find that in the image menu, image, adjustment, hue and saturation. We could then just move the hue, and we can see the effect on the sail as we're moving it, so we could pick something that suits us. But you can see that sometimes maybe the colours are a little bit over the top. In normal circumstances we would use saturation to take some of the colour off, but sometimes I find it goes a little bit muddy here. So in that case what we can do is change the colour on the layer. So let's say we wanted to change this shade of green for blue. If I just click the colour, I can see where it is. Look, I can leave that selection there. I could move my sliders up to the blue. Again, leave my selection there because I know it's more or less right. But of course, if I wanted a darker colour or I wanted it to be paler, I can just move it left or right. But I'll stay where I am just for the moment, and I'll click OK. Well, if I flood this layer with colour, then of course it's going to flood the entire layer. But we've got this little option at the top of the layers, and if I keep my cursor really still, we should see the pop-up. It says lock transparent pixels, and what it means, let's turn off the bottom layer. It just means that if I lock that layer, I protect the transparent nature of the image. So when I use my Alt backspace to flood the colour, well, you can see exactly what it does. If I didn't have the lock, the entire layer would be flooded with blue. And of course it retains the multiply blend mode, so when I turn my base image back on, there we have the colour. And once we've got the lock in place, if I wanted to try something else, I wanted a paler colour because I felt that was more appropriate, then you can see I can do that, and Alt backspace floods the colour. I could possibly pick up my eyedropper tool and pick up the yellow from the originally coloured sail on the front and Alt backspace again, and there we have a matching pair of sails. And with the spinning round of the screen, you can see one example I did earlier. Not forgetting, of course, it's the same technique we would use to repair faded colour photos and do many other repairs on our day-to-day images.